Tales from a Forgotten Realm, Number 5, Darke's Devils. Noah was glad this was to be a short journey. He'd learnt a few things in the last hour. The first of these was that even paying guests were expected to muck in on the dark night. The second, that the captain was called Captain Darke, and that this particular group of criminals referred to themselves as Darke's Devils. The third was that this was a fitting name. He'd quietly observed the crew, and they all walked with a dangerous confidence of men who had taken lives, and would again with no hesitation. The burly half-orc first mate was called Huff Duffy, and was well respected by the crew. Despite his obvious dangerous exterior, Noah couldn't help but like the man. Huff was charismatic and had a dry sense of humour that made him popular amongst the crew. It became obvious why he was the first mate. While the captain was withdrawn and stood apart from the crew to a degree, Huff was always visible on deck. Noah suspected that men would follow Darke out of fear, but they would follow Huff out of love. This did not mean that Darke did not hold complete dominion here. As Huff was completely loyal to the captain, everyone who spoke to him could tell that. Noah suspected that the half-orc was the only man on the ship, if not the only man in the world, that truly knew Captain Darke. Noah had spent some time in the military after being trained as a healer, and he had met men like Darke. They were always leaders. Being a leader was difficult. You had to be distant from the men and women you led, to a degree. It's the only way you can make the difficult decisions sometimes. If you had to let one man die to save another, such decisions must not be clouded by friendship in times of war. The crew themselves were an interesting mix of miscreants. The old man who always seemed to be leading a song was called Pegleg Pete, Noah had learned. He was not able to join in on a lot of the physical work due to his disability, but it was clear why Darke kept him around. After Huff, Pete was one of the most popular members of the crew. The others loved his songs and often went to him for his sage advice on any number of things, from health concerns to advice on the women they had scattered across several ports. Pete seemed a font of knowledge and always had a story to tell. Noah also had been correct when he thought he'd seen a drow on board. The drow was called Dark Boy Doll by the rest of the crew, and he looked at Noah with open hostility and spat on the deck as he passed him. Drow almost universally hated other elves, and it seemed Doll was no exception to this rule. Noah would have to watch him. He had told Mithril to keep an eye on him as well. They rested in shifts and were always aware of their surroundings. Noah was very glad that the journey to Fireshire would only take the better part of a day, so he wouldn't need to go into a trance. He'd hate to go into a meditative state only to find a shiv stuck in his back. Noah wondered how a drow had come to be above ground, let alone on a ship, but he knew better than to ask too many questions. He did notice that the drow did try to find work in the shade or below deck whenever he could, and winced when the sun hit his face. Within a couple of hours, though, that was not really a problem, as the sun was obscured by billowing snow clouds. A blizzard whirled up around them, with barely any warning. This was when the crew of misfits became something more in front of Noah's eyes. They became a well-oiled machine. The drow darted up the rigging to adjust the sails like a shot. The white-eyed orc navigator held the wheel firm in his grip, his muscles bulging on his arms. Huff walked the deck, barking orders to the men and gesturing towards loose ropes flapping in the wind. A barbaric-looking Northman ran past Noah and slapped him on the back. "It's a good day to die, elf! The sky is smiling upon us!" he bellowed. Noah raised his gaze to the clouds and saw a single sliver of the sun breaking through the storm. It did look a little like a grinning mouth amongst the clouds. The Northman ran to tie one of the ropes with a frantic laugh. Mithril walked over to Noah. "I feel like we should be doing something," she said loudly over the howling wind. Noah looked around to the whirlwind of action around them, as men swung from rigging and tied down every rope that had broken free in the gusting wind. "Honestly, I think we'd just be getting in the way at this point," Noah shouted back. The cabin door swung open, and out stepped the captain, his long coat billowing in the wind. With one hand holding his hat, he idled over to Noah and Myth, as if walking through a nice spring garden. So easy was his step. He was a picture of calm in the havoc. He was like the eye of the hurricane.
"How do you like the weather, your majesty?"
he yelled over the surf.
"What a glorious day!"
He walked past and headed up next to the helmsman, and lent his strength to holding the ship steady. After a few terrifying minutes, the ship passed out of the storm, and Noah could see the shoreline in the distance. And there, in a snowy cove, was the town he had once called home, Fireshire.